CGTN, China Global Television Network.
To get acquainted to China's Great Rejuvenation Path in 6 days, he has visited 4 provinces and cities, attended 25 meetings, and jointly signed 6 cooperative memoranda. When describing national history, bilateral relations, South-South cooperation, and global governance, he uses the same analogy, jigsaw puzzles. He underscores the importance of cooperation on a global scale. The President of the Republic of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, sat down in an exclusive interview with Leaders Talk. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Leaders Talk, where we meet leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers. I'm Lei Tongtong. Our guest today is Hakainde Hichilema, the President of Zambia. During his week-long official visit to China, President Hichilema toured Shenzhen, Ningde, and many other places before meeting with President Xi. How did he enjoy those trips, and what his takeaways from the conversation with President Xi? Why is China's modernization a new opportunity for the world? Here's my conversation with Hakainde Hichilema, the President of Zambia. Mr. President, very honored to have you on Leaders Talk, and welcome to Beijing.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Very happy to take your interview, to have this conversation with you.
You started your first visit to China as president in Shenzhen. So why did you put Shenzhen as your first stop?
Well, first, we're very delighted to be undertaking this state visit to China. And as you rightly pointed out, our first stop was in Shenzhen. And then we moved on to Jiangxi and on to Fujian, and yesterday into Beijing. So this is the network of visitations that we've done, and this has been done by design. It's not by chance, but by design. Shenzhen, for example, is important to us. Shenzhen provides that example, practical example, of how a government, in this case the Chinese government, was able to select a particular area and try out, if I may use that expression, a model, special economic zones, as part of China. Tremendous. So we would like to pick those positive lessons from there. Stable digital platform is a building block to our economic advancement, our vision. So yes, that was deliberate, but we just didn't visit, Huawei. We visited others in the same space. We visited also BYD.
Car company.
Absolutely. All anchored on technology, green energy, to mitigate the negative impact of climate change. And the industry of the future is EV, to move away from fossil fuels, which has a higher negative impact on the climate change damage, if I may say so.
Shenzhen has developed to the international metropolis in 40 years, and you also, in particular, visit Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau Bridge. You visited Shanghai many years ago, I believe. Yes, and you said Pudong New Area was the rice field at that time. That is unbelievable achievement. So what is your understanding about the Chinese path to modernization?
I think it has worked for China. Anyone who cares to study the global situation, global facts, understands that China has come a long way. And the model they picked from where they were to where China is today is admirable. If you go to Shenzhen, what it was not long ago, you go to Fujian, which we went to, what it was not long ago, what it is today, dramatic. And I think we can learn. Zambia is here to learn, pick these trends, apply them to our own conditions, see what makes sense for us, and work on those. I think that is important. Yeah.
Yes, there are many different ways leading to modernization, and
Exactly.
African people have the most to say on which path suits Africa best. So let's talk about the Jiangxi province. Why did you decide to make stopover in Jinggangshan during your visit?
That part, that aspect of the Chinese history, is central to the jigsaw puzzle. of China's route to modernization, to uplifting the living standards of the people. And we're very glad that we went to those mountains. We went to see where Chairman Mao used to spend nights working places, up there and down. If you look at those mountain ranges, you would hardly think people would select that site as a strategic site to liberate their country. Because it's hardship by nature of that location, the geography, the distance from the bottom, to go and live up there, to walk that path day in, day out. To imagine that to go down to get food, the freedom fighters needed to take a distance of 50 kilometers up there and to say, this is the place. Great vision. And I think therein lies the jigsaw puzzle piece of what you see today. Then we have a better understanding. And you can pick the threads, the themes that make things happen and happen for the people in a consistent way. Is it because this is the perception we all make outside of, not all, some people make outside of China, is that China, things just happen like that. Boom. No. It was hardships, but hard work, determination, teamwork, leadership, consistency, and then keeping the wheel moving and improving things. I understood even before I came, but when I came, I was able to tick the boxes. Okay? That one, yes, tick. That one, tick.
You visited Ningde in Fujian province where the President Xi used to work, and you also visited Xiaqi village in Fu'an city. That is, the microcosm of the Chinese achievement in poverty alleviation and green development. And Chinese President Xi put 3 initiatives. The one is supporting Africa's agricultural modernization. So after you visit in Fujian province, what's your understanding about China's experience?
I think that's another example of developing the country, driving the development agenda of the country, not for a specific group of citizens only, but for all. Critical. What's the welfare of people like that village, fishing village, where the boat, fragile boat, was a home to families. That was the only home. So one would have said, well, that's a small village in Fujian. But there are many such villages. There are many similar cases like those. They need to be addressed. I must tell you that I was extremely touched by that experience. And now to learn that there was a specific intervention made by the Chinese leadership to address that negative situation, and others, of course, elsewhere, not just in that province and elsewhere, to find remedies, medium measures, that took people out of the boat as a home, as a source of limited income opportunities through education, college. Now I hear they're graduates from that community. It touched me a lot, and I asked my colleagues that I hope you follow this story. And we related it to our own situation back home, water and sanitation, from shallow wells to deep wells, reticulated water, through technology, again, back to technology, solar, off the grid, national grid. Protect women who move 5 kilometers to a water source every day, to and from, with a kid on their back. One hand, they're carrying a kid who is 2 years, another one in the name of pregnancy. Then 20 liters of water on the head.
That's really tough.
It's a tough life. I know it doesn't make sense to you, but it is true. That's why you saw us in Shenzhen, to bring about connectivity, internet, to those local areas, digital platforms. Then we can have digital health, e-health, medicine, e-education. That's where we're going. kids in the rural areas can access internet. And that village, when I saw it, the story was told, I admired President Xi Jinping for his vision, his leadership, and the feel for the people. Because it's important to have a feel for the people. If you don't have the feel, the love for the people.
The people in the heart.
Exactly. You are in the wrong place occupying public office. Maybe you should do other things. So I think we could pull all of those facets of the story together and say, tick the box. Life has changed. You can't just look at one way of doing things. There are many ways you can do things. Others have spent years seeking those ways. Why not talk to them, apply those ways so that we can accelerate growth for our people and opportunity for our people? I would like you to interview us 4 years from now and see where we'll be.
Happy to do that.
When visiting Fujian, President Hichilema was impressed with the story of Shachi, a fishing village. Residents who used to dwell on floating homes have been relocated to a hospitable living environment on the shore, embracing a moderately prosperous life. In recent years, Zambia has been confronted with droughts, power outages, subpar agricultural yields, and a heavy foreign debt burden, among other challenges. In August 2021, during his inauguration speech, he said he would focus on restoring economic stability and promoting economic growth. As for now, Zambia is committed to alleviating poverty and rejuvenating rural areas. According to Zambia's national broadcaster, after seeing the achievements of the rural rejuvenation strategy proposed by Chinese President Xi Jinping, President Hichilema was deeply inspired.
The president said he has drawn a lot of inspiration from Chinese President Xi Jinping's village transformation efforts.
As I was listening to the story, my brain was running quickly. I said, that area is like this, that area is like this. We can do anything we want, anything we believe in, but we have to work for it. We have to work hard. But it's all anchored on love for the people, loving for all our people, as President Xi Jinping did very early on in his leadership when he was in charge of this area and then in charge of this Fujian province.
On September 15th, President Xi Jinping and President Hichilema announced that both countries had upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership, thus opening a new chapter for China-Zambia friendship. In his only 6-day state visit, President Hichilema has continuously shared his journey on social media with more than 50 updates, including photos and videos with comments and thoughts. 6 days, 4 provinces and cities, 25 minutes, and 6 MOUs. Behind these numbers are greater potential for cooperation in energy, green housing, digital transformation, and smartphone, as well as technological and cultural communication.
Now you see and learn Chinese experience, and you said you visit Chinese technology companies, you visit the Chinese car companies. China is willing to share experiences with African countries on industrialization. How important is industrialization for African countries? And according to you, what role can China play during this process?
Very important. So now, to accelerate economic development, for improving social lives, and the overall quality of lives of our people, we need to drive industrialization. There's a point. Because industrialization will allow us not just to extract raw materials, but to extract them, number one. Number two, to process them into value-added products. By definition of value-added products, it means more economic activity. It means we generate resources sufficient enough to send our children to school. Free education we've introduced. Mind you, just for your information, I'm a product of that system myself. I came from the village. I'm a product of that system, and I sit as president, head of state, servant of the people of Zambia, primarily on one asset, one investment, one inheritance called education. Thirdly, business opportunities in the value chain. Now, all of that largely is driven by industrialization. Remember, China itself was basically a raw material country, extraction. But now it's an industrial economy. And see the growth rates. See the change in the living standards. The per capita income has gone up, driven by industrialization. There you are.
Referring to education, I remember you talked with many kids in primary school, and you asked them, "What do you want to be?"
Exactly.
Some students said, "I
I'm
want
glad
to."
you're following.
Yes, someone said, "I want to be a doctor. I want to be a soldier. I want to be a teacher. Even I want to be the president." And you say, education is the future, and education is investment. Now China put forward the plan for China-Africa cooperation on talent development, including provision, the Chinese language and vocational trainings on 10,000 African technicians. So how important is this cooperation?
Very important. Very, very important. As I said earlier on, life is a jigsaw puzzle. It's bits and pieces. If you don't look carefully, you think that this piece sits alone. No, that piece is part of the jigsaw puzzle. That cooperation will further enhance the skill sets that Zambians, Africans acquire. We want to encourage China to continue with it, but also to encourage Zambians. They can add on to the incremental value, building block approach for the generations after them to benefit from their effort.
Zambia joined the Belt and Road Initiative in 2018.
Indeed.
So what opportunities and deliverables has this initiative brought to Zambia in the past 5 years?
We now have projects, roads being done, infrastructure. We have energy infrastructure, green energy for that matter, being constructed. We are now talking about reviving the Tazara railway line to give it a new lease of life, what we call Kafue Gorge Lower Power Station, 700 plus megawatts. And that was part, I'm talking about Zambian peace, that was part of this initiative. It's a great initiative. I think there are a lot more things that we can do. And we would like this initiative to continue. It shouldn't threaten anybody at all. It's this perception of that if you are involved in this project, you are against that other project. I don't see things that way. We don't see things that way. We used to have in Zambia what we were calling load shedding. Power would go off. Now, Zambians have taken for granted the power, the energy they have in their homes, at least those on the grid, national grid. They should take it for granted. It's part of this cooperation, part of partially this relationship, this bilateral relationship, which we're upgrading to a strategic one, and cooperation in many areas.
You have quoted from the book Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, many times in public, and you also expressed that you were looking forward to communicate with President Xi face to face. So have you shared your insight with President Xi during the meeting this morning? For example, what statements left you deep impression?
Very positive, as I expected. Of course, I've been following his leadership 10 years down the road. I have read his writings. So I could connect now with this physical meeting. We had very close conversation. So for me, piecing the pieces, putting the pieces together and ticking the boxes and understanding that it is the reason the Chinese people have asked him to be their president, because of what he stands for.
So it's a very constructive conversation with President Xi Jinping.
Very.
Yes?
Very constructive,
Yeah.
Very helpful, very beneficial.
On October 29, 1964, Zambia established diplomatic relations with China, the first country in southern Africa to do so. During the meeting with his Zambian counterpart, President Xi Jinping mentioned the Tazara Railway, which is of great significance for Zambia. Zambia lies in a central position in southern Africa with abundant copper resources, hence its name, the Copper Country. However, as Kenneth Kaunda, the founding president of Zambia, said, Zambians were born with a copper spoon in their mouths, but it's hard for them to profit from the copper resources. From the late 19th to mid-20th century, the African continent was under the yoke of Western colonialist countries that plundered natural resources. Through hard struggling, Zambia gained its independence on October 24, 1964. As a landlocked country, Zambia has no seaports. With the route for copper exports being hindered by Western colonialists, Zambia was determined to build a railway through Tanzania and export its copper. At the request of Zambia and Tanzania, China provided assistance and built the Tazara Railway with the African people. Together, they opened a beautiful chapter with China supporting the sovereignty of the Zambian people and the African people. The Tazara spirit lives on as a major trend towards global development. President Hichilema notes that China's development has been instrumental to the development of the Global South, which is better represented in international affairs and has a bigger say. Speaking of China's cooperation with Africa, China has always adhered to the 5 No's principle. No interference in African countries' pursuit of development paths that fit their national conditions. No interference in African countries' internal affairs. No imposition of China's will on African countries. No political strings attached to the assistance to Africa. And no selfish political gains in investment and financing cooperation with Africa.
And President Xi always talked about 5 lines that China will not cross and underscored its sincerity, friendship, and equality with African countries. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with him. I think what a relationship becomes, by and large, is anchored on sincerity. Sharing the good things, but also sharing things that are not too nice, but they need to be dealt with. For example, we both, Zambia and China, agree that we must make our world peaceful, secure, stable. As we know, instability anywhere, we believe, is instability everywhere. So when we keep our world stable, starting with our own countries, as much as possible, then our regions, our continents, our world, then we can focus on the developmental ticket, economic, social development, uplifting the living standards of the people. Peace, security, stability is a prerequisite to development.
How crucial is Africa's prosperity for the world?
Africa, like many countries in the South, are less responsible for climate damage, but pay the highest price. But when decisions are being made about climate damage and mitigation, Africans are not at the table. That's inequitous. That's not correct. But we must also be part of the decision tree. And that's why we are pushing a lot on the South-South cooperation. And again, I think China, President Xi Jinping, plays a critical role in that area, together with many other leaders. That's part of the conversation we had at the China-Africa Summit, Leaders Summit in Johannesburg, in South Africa, just last night, not long ago. Africa must be part of the G20. And again, thank you to the countries that have supported that. Africa must be part of the global financial system where price of capital is not segregative, but Africa to basically be part of the puzzle, jigsaw puzzle, where we all win.
And you touched great importance on global governance. So what's your understanding about the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative put forward by President Xi?
Short answer. Very important. They were positive. Who doesn't want global civilization? Who doesn't want to uplift the living standards of your own people? For us occupying public office, who you claim to represent, wouldn't you buy an initiative? Wouldn't you participate in an initiative that helps to uplift your people from, like that village, fishing village, like many of our villages, Like that mother I told you walks 5 kilometers every day. Who wouldn't want a family to take a shower when they need to be hygienically sound and not to walk 5 kilometers? So really, who wouldn't want to be part of that story? We definitely want to be. And I expect everyone else to be. And I think we should support President Xi Jinping. We should support each other.
You visited Russia and Ukraine with other, African leaders in June, and and offered the 10-point proposals calling for peace talks. So, what do you make of the efforts by the different stakeholders to calling for the peace talks, and how do you respond to the moves that further escalate tensions?
This is a subject that we must be direct about. I said earlier, conflict is bad for everybody. Now, many would say, oh, we're in Zambia, we're in Africa. The war in Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war does not affect us. What about the imported inflation, the cost of living triggered, which most of us are now reeling with? But we have a negative effect of war. So that war needs to come to an end. Every war comes to an end. So any peace-building effort is a positive effort. So why would anybody criticize a peace-building process to end conflict? Why? What would be the reason? Maybe you have an answer. I don't have an answer. Other than to say there must be other reasons that really are not common interest reasons. That somebody or a country would be negative about the African leader talking peace. A peacemaker will come from anywhere. China is making its own efforts. Tick, welcome. I decided to take a bit of time to answer this question so I can clear some of the misconceptions, some of the deliberate misunderstandings. I do really think that if you look at the Second World War, Africa was affected. Africans fought in it. Africans were conscripted in that war. And the scars of that war still linger on. We don't want war. We don't want conflict. What we want is cooperation, is partnership, is mutuality, is common value. I repeat, we urge our colleagues, our brothers and sisters, to find reason why that war must come to an end and restore peace and order.
Mr. President, thank you so much, and thanks for your time.
Sasha.
During the conversation, the President Hichilema used the phrase jigsaw puzzle many times. Whether it's national development or bilateral relations, South-South cooperation or global governance, he believed that everyone and every country should form synergy to turn risks into opportunities and challenges into hope. Okay, thank you for watching Let's Talk. I'm Tonto. See you next time.